Welcome to convict Sydney, New South Wales in the 1790s. A tiny settlement clinging to the edge of the great Aboriginal continent we call Australia. Now, most of us think of this as a pretty cruel and hopeless place, a dumping ground for the prisoners from Britain's overcrowded jails, where people were miserable most of the time. But that's not the whole story. New South Wales became a radical experiment in giving rogues, thieves and adventurers a chance. In 1790, the second fleet of English ships ever to go to the colony is on its way. On board are Lieutenant John MacArthur, his wife Elizabeth and their baby son. They're on their way to begin a new life. These are two very ambitious people.
In my last letter I informed you, my dear mother, of my husband's exchange to a corps destined for the convict settlement at New South Wales, from which we have every reasonable expectation of reaping the most material advantage.
MacArthur and Elizabeth have had to fight to get this far in life. They demand more space and privacy, as befits their status. But then the second fleet is the voyage from hell. It is run by private contractors who normally work the slave trade. They're paid whether the convicts on board, who are the main reason for the colony existing at all, arrive dead or alive. A quarter die on the voyage. It does nothing to sway the MacArthurs. They are seeking their fortune at the farthest corner of the empire, and God pity any man who gets in MacArthur's way. The Sydney town that awaits them has also been doing it tough. A tiny population of 1,000 people, nearly starved waiting for the second fleet. The MacArthurs arrived to a raw young community just over 2 years old, made up mostly of convicts. If the colony is ever to be more than a jail dependent on supplies from Britain, it needs free settlers like the MacArthurs to make it self-sufficient. In the meantime, Lieutenant MacArthur has come to join these men, the soldiers of the New South Wales Corps, the troops sent to protect the colony. And he couldn't have timed it better. The Corps will soon be left in charge when the colony's founding governor is recalled to England. In the years that follow, MacArthur and his fellow officers seized the opportunity left by the official vacuum to make their fortunes. As a member of the Corps, MacArthur is entitled to 100 acres of farmland, with convicts free of charge to work it. Before he's finished, he and Elizabeth will have a great deal more. Their farm and those of the other Corps members now deliver the produce needed to make the colony self-sufficient, a huge step forward in giving the colony a future. Gradually, the other smaller settlers, many of them ex-convicts, catch up as well. New South Wales is becoming more of a farming community than a jail for old lags. But all the farming land has to come from where? The short answer is from the Aborigines. As the white settlers take up more land across the 1790s, the Aborigines fight back. No one's asked them. The land is simply taken. By contrast, MacArthur has good relations with the local Durag people. Through careful negotiations, he avoids the violence and the troubles affecting other farmers. But MacArthur is anything but diplomatic with this man. In 1800,
Governor Philip Gidley King arrives to find a colony spiralling out of control. Despite the progress made with farming, the colony is awash with hard liquor. Over the last 10 years, the Corps have made a fortune importing rum. They purchase an incredible 7,500 gallons of the stuff and sell it on at great profit. The Rum Corps, as they will become known, even use spirits as a form of currency. Scenes of drunken and licentious behaviour become the norm. King is appalled and determined to assert control. He outlaws the officers' trade in rum and encourages other forms of power. King's fight with the Rum Corps brings him into direct confrontation with John MacArthur.
King shows his colours when he calls the Rum Corps hucksters and sides with the small settlers who owe them money. Well, MacArthur is livid. He and his fellow officers will not be told off by some jumped-up governor, especially one from the Navy. And he announces that the officers will boycott Government House.
And that leads to this. MacArthur challenging his own commanding officer, Colonel Patterson, to a duel. Patterson's crime? Telling MacArthur to show the governor some respect.
You will rot on Norfolk Island for this. Damn you, sir. I'm no serf. You've treated me with the blackest treachery. I demand a court-martial in London, point of honour.
Oh, for heaven's sake!
Excellent, you're bound for London forthwith.
MacArthur is sent to England, but the court-martial collapses after all the paperwork is rather conveniently lost at sea. And he deftly brings the matter to a close by resigning from the army.
But London is a big, fat opportunity for MacArthur, and he makes the most of it. Far from slinking around the streets in disgrace, he lobbies the government to support a scheme to make the Australian colony a major wool producer. He wants land, and plenty of it.
MacArthur. Banks. Sir Joseph Banks.
Yeah.
But it almost comes unstuck when he meets one of white Australia's founding fathers. Their talk will be the first small step to the Rum Rebellion.
I was surprised to see you didn't bid for the Cheviot Ram.
No, I like a sheep with wool on its face. You have a hard son in Australia, as you well know.
Indeed I do. I assume your intention is to take your purchases back to Australia immediately.
Mm-hmm.
If that is the case, you may well be unaware there is an Act of Parliament that forbids the exportation of English live sheep from these shores.
Never heard of such a thing.
But I'd be prepared to help you around this travail.
And why would you want to do that?
I'm interested to see the colony prosper.
Well, there's only one thing I'm interested in seeing prosper, and I can do it without your help.
Perhaps you're right. The Cheviot isn't suitable for New South Wales. I do hope, however, that the people of the colony share one of its qualities.
Oh, yes.
There's no fear of the wool being pulled over its eyes. I bid you good day, sir.
He can't help himself, can he, MacArthur? Next stop, the corridors of power, and no less a personage than the Secretary of State for the colonies.
Your encounter with Sir Joseph is the talk of Whitehall.
I have no idea why, just a few words.
He's campaigning against the size of your grant. Words cost you dearly, my friend. He's determined to see the size of your land grant reduced.
I asked for his help several years ago and was refused. Now, without explanation or forewarning, he approaches me in a public place. The man is a buffoon.
Really?
I can't see how my affairs are anything to do with him.
Then you'll be none the wiser when things don't turn out the way you plan. Sir Joseph regards the Antipodes as his domain, you see. People take his views very seriously. They seek out his advice and, dare I say it, usually take it.
Yeah, man, it was impertinent. Good Lord, the old bores in the country 30 years ago. It was all
Kangaroos and savages.
Indeed. However, he says my land grant to you of 10,000 acres seems overly generous. There are many who agree with him. They say you fellows control too much already. Give the small settlers and ex-convicts a chance. That sort of thing.
But it is done.
Oh, yes, yes. In time it will be done. For the moment, would you object to taking 5,000 acres at first, on the understanding you'll receive the other 5,000 acres on the completion of your undertaking?
If that is the way it has to be, Lord Camden, that is the way it has to be.
Back in Sydney, poor old Governor King can't believe it. He sent MacArthur to London in disgrace for a court-martial, and the road comes back with a land grant for 5,000 acres. King returns to England a bitter and disappointed man. To add insult to injury, Lord Camden even gave MacArthur some prized merino sheep from no less a source than the royal flocks. He claims the colony's best grazing land. Known as the cow pastures, it had been protected by previous governors for the use of cattle that might feed the colony in times of need. But MacArthur ignores protests and takes the pastures for himself. In 1806, Governor William Bligh set sail for New South Wales, a man who will turn the colony on its head and change its destiny forever. The Captain Bligh of the infamous mutiny on the Bounty. Bligh is an officer of great ability, but terrible temper, a commander who has turned loyal men into rebels. Accompanied by his daughter Mary Putland, Bligh is on a mission to sort out a troublesome colony. An appointment encouraged by no less than MacArthur's old adversary, Sir Joseph Banks. When Bligh arrives in New South Wales, the settler population is up to about 7,000 people. Only 1/5 are convicts under sentence, the rest a rabble of military, free settlers and ex-convicts. Bligh sees Sydney as a physical and administrative mess. He believes that he is the very man to knock it and the Rum Corps into shape.
You're smiling, Papa.
Because, madam, a group of uppity ex-convicts and unruly officers is about to learn a lesson.
Bligh sets to work immediately. He tries to end the rum economy by prohibiting the use of spirits as barter. But the real battle is about land.
Mrs. Putland.
Mr. MacArthur?
And I'm not disturbing you, Governor. I understand there's been some talk about the land granted to me by Lord Camden. Now, I was originally offered 10,000 acres, half of which I've accepted, and with it have been doing my utmost to create wealth for this colony.
The area is called the cow pastures, for good reason, sir. A herd of wild cattle established itself there, and Governor King didn't want them driven off.
Yes, well, I had this out with the Governor before he left. My boundaries have been decided. It would not be good practice to disturb the sheep.
What have I to do with your sheep, sir? What have I to do with your cattle? Are you to have such flocks of sheep and herds of cattle as no man ever heard of before? No, sir, I know your concerns, sir. You've got 5,000 acres of land, sir, in the finest situation in the country, but by God, you shan't keep it.
But I remind you, sir, that land was granted to me by recommendation of the Privy Council by order of the Duke of Portland.
Damn the Secretary of State. He commands at home. I command here.
Well, it would not be my choice to seek redress through the law. However...
Damn the law! My will is the law.
And it's here that our story of the Rum Rebellion takes a turn.